Hey there, I'm Ariel Taylor, the Youth Media Manager at PhillyCam, and I'm here with Yasmeen and Layla, and today we are going to be talking about Kanye West. And I'm really excited for the show. We're also going to be having a musical guest and also going to be talking to a therapist who kind of specializes on combining rap and therapy together. So Yasmin, do you want to kind of kick us off? Like, why is talking about Kanye West important to you, at least?
Every time I open social media, the first name I read is Kanye West, whether it's about Pete Davidson, Kim Kardashian, divorce, Julia Fox. Like, I always see Kanye, and I rarely see the nuance behind why Kanye is in these headlines and why it's so important that we're talking about him, but not why he's doing these things. So I really want to shed light on Kanye West and not in a negative way like most of these like outlets are doing, and really talk about why and kind of how we can even help Kanye or people going through similar things that he is.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Layla, what about you? Like, why do you feel like we should be having this kind of conversation around Kanye West?
Well, as a Kanye fan myself, um, I feel kind of torn between the whole like Kanye debate and like um, if he's right or wrong in most situations that he goes through. But like I feel like yeah, I said, people are always talking about like Kanye this, Kanye that, but never really the nuances and like the background information, how he really got there. So I think it's important to really like talk about the journey, like the change of Kanye, like what made him get to this point, and like, is it too late to like get him to a better state? Is it like necessary to get him to a better state? Should we just leave him alone? Should we still support him? Like, kind of more like talk about the nuances between like Kanye and the craziness, I guess.
I feel like watching that documentary that came out on Netflix called Genius about Kanye also kind of really shed a light and opened up a lot of conversation or questioning or yeah, just like a deeper insight into Kanye's life. I love to know, like, Yasmin, what was something that you kind of took away from that documentary about Kanye?
I really enjoyed seeing him with his mom because obviously when his mom was still alive, I wasn't really like alive and like aware. So seeing him with his mom and kind of how much of a light she was for him was really like eye-opening, because knowing that she was so important in his life and his career, and like her death and how much it really took a toll on him mentally, and how that one incident can really make his whole career shift and change, and no one really was there to like confide, like he had no one to confide in and no one to really talk about it with. And his career was at such a high point when his mom died that he couldn't just take off and be like, I have to grieve, I have to like take some time away from like music. He still had to keep going, because as a black man you can't just stop and pick back up. Like, you had to keep fighting, keep grinding. And that's what really took a toll on him, was he had no time to rest or no time to really process what was going on until it was too late.
Mm. Yeah, I totally agree. Layla, what did you think about that documentary?
For me, the documentary was good to watch because I've kind of been like an early Kanye fan, like his early career, but I'm still on the younger side. So when I was like really young, I would say like 8, 9, or like 7 years old, I was listening to Kanye, but it was more based on like what my parents were listening to. And seeing the documentary was kind of like filling in the blanks for me. Like, oh, this is what was going on behind the genius of his music. This was like the background information, because like I wasn't like watching MTV and stuff that much back then, but I heard the songs, I liked like his music, and seeing him as a person was like really interesting for me. And also seeing how much he changed, but also how much he didn't change. Like, I feel like Kanye has always been Kanye. And like when people say, oh, I miss the old Kanye, I'm kind of like, he's always kind of been that. Like, it's almost just like people were feeding his ego and feeding whatever. And like as the fame grew, as social media changed, like as media changed in general, like he kind of changed with it. And sadly, it kind of became more of a negative thing than like a positive thing. Like sometimes he changes like positively, but also that comes into like the play with like the bipolar and all that. And I feel like I like how the documentary kind of wasn't talking about mental illness, but I feel like there needs to be someone talking about it, which is why today I hope we touch on a lot of the topics, like the nuances of like mental health and all that. But I really liked seeing him work with other artists like that. I like Pharrell and who else was in there? I can't even think, but Pharrell stood out to me. But like different artists that I know and like, and see them kind of work together with Kanye well and see the real genius behind the stuff was like interesting to me.
Yeah, no, I I totally agree. I think like Kanye West is like for me the transition of like towards my like junior or senior year, it might even been like sophomore year of high school, like into adulthood. So he's like for me, like one of the first rappers that I felt like I could like kind of call my own. Like, like my sister's a little bit older than me. And like, I definitely wasn't like into like the type of rap music that like my mom was kind of into. Like it, like I'm not like my mom was like really into like Dr. Dre and like, it's just it wasn't like my vibe, but Kanye was definitely like my vibe, just like talking about the Gap and talking about white people, talking about like dressing different and, like this like still thing that like even still to this day where it's like, especially as a Black person, you still are like trying to move between these two different worlds and like be your like authentic self. But like sometimes people don't feel like you're hard enough or you're tough enough. And he like, even talking about being like self-conscious, like that's always one of those lines that sticks out to me of just like, we're all self-conscious. I'm just like the first to admit it. It's just like, because, in rap, it was just like so much like ego, or I'm this, I'm that. And like, he was so open about talking about his flaws, like even from the very beginning, that made me feel like, okay, like this is like different, so I guess, I'd be interested to hear, you both kind of touched on it a little bit about like social media and kind of like, just like him moving. And do you think, like, how do you think social media has really affected Kanye, either between like his mental health or like, has it helped his career? Has it harmed it? Like, what do y'all think?
Yes, I think you can start with that because you're more opinionated than I am with that.
I think social media can be a great place to have relatability and representation that we don't often get in media. But social media for Kanye kind of was his downfall in a way, but also in a new rise in a new era of Kanye, because I feel like with mental health and mental illnesses, you have these vulnerable moments where you can't always share it with everybody and they might not understand it, or they might see it as violent or as you're acting weird or acting different or you're irrational. So him having an episode or having a breakdown and televising it or tweeting every thought that comes to his head when he's not thinking as he usually will is very harmful, because someone might take that and be like, this is Kanye and this is him always, when that might have just been a bad day for him or a bad moment in his life. So I think with social media and really like saying your every thought or your every move can be like good, because someone might see that and be like, wow, I feel suicidal, I feel at a low point, I feel hopeless. And you might see that and be like, wow, Kanye West, the big guy who I always looked up to is also feeling like this, wow, I feel seen, I feel heard. But then someone else might see it and be like, wow, he's really unstable. Should he even have kids? Should he even be able to see his kids? Should he even be able to be touring and be influencing a young generation? So I think with social media, there should be a kind of a balance between when you should be saying something, when you shouldn't, like kind of being in a right headspace to say certain things, and then also notice and be aware of when you should take a step back and maybe be like, I'm not going to say this, I'm just going to get off of social media for a bit, clear my mind, and then come back when I'm like, okay.
I feel like when it comes to media and versus social media specifically, there's a difference between the story being told. Like media, it's almost like the creator of the media is trying to portray a message. And when it comes to media with the music industry, rap industry specifically, it's almost like they're trying to sell you that it's violent. They're trying to sell you that Black men are this, Black men are that. And like you said, when Kanye was like coming up, he was the different one. He was the weirdo. He was telling you, hey, it's okay to be subconscious, like self-conscious. It was okay to be like different. It's okay to like not be hard all the time. It's okay. And I feel like they're almost trying to push it like, no, he's still violent, this, that. And then when you add social media, which is him trying to tell his own story. And like you said, let's say he's not in a stable moment and he's just saying anything on social media. When the real media takes those like bits of information from his personal social media and tries to portray a message that kind of got miscommunicated and he wasn't trying to say in the first place, it's easy to demonize someone for their thoughts and portray them as violent when that might have not necessarily been the intention. And I feel like that happens a lot with Kanye. And like some of the stuff he says is out of line. But at the same time, I feel like no one ever kind of lets him explain or lets him say like whatever. It's like they almost check him at the wrong times. It's like, oh, you're checking him and in his unfiltered whatever thoughts, but you're not checking him when he's just living every day and like getting to the spiral. You know what I mean? I feel like with social media, he's saying like his real thoughts and they might not be facts, they might be opinion, but a lot of people take them as facts or try to push them to you as this is what Kanye is saying as factual. And like I feel like everyone's entitled to their opinion, but also you gotta know that at a high standard and like a high status person, you can't just say anything because people are going to take what you say to be true sometimes. And like it's fair, but it's also not fair for anything Kanye to say to be, you know, taken out of context all the time. Like that's kind of how I feel about social media and Kanye.
Hey, so we're here with Ronald Crawford. Ronald, do you go, is your like tagline, or do you go as like the hip hop therapist? Or okay, that's what I look when I was looking for people to kind of talk, like that's what popped up and I was like, well, this is perfect. But I mean, I think that was just like the line to kind of get me to look further and deeper into you. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Ronald Crawford, and like some of the hip hop artists like J. Cole, I use my name. It's no gimmicks. Hip hop therapy is what I do. And hip hop therapy is an integration between hip hop culture and evidence-based therapy strategies. And I developed hip hop psycho ed, which is what I call it actually, to engage people who are historically resistant to traditional therapy. For years, Black people have been avoidant of therapy for a lot of reasons. Some of them include the stigma of having a mental health challenge, bias in the field of psychiatry, not trusting the system, history of medical racism. You know, you guys remember the Tuskegee experiment. So people that look like us don't usually do therapy. But what I learned is when I bring participants' home culture into a therapeutic intervention, it increases their buy-in. And many of the people that I deal with are members of the hip hop culture. And they're members of the hip hop culture when you understand that the way that they express themselves through their taste in music, their taste in clothes, their values, their behaviors, many of them are influenced by hip hop culture. So, and when I say hip hop culture, people mostly think about young people. Oh, rap music. Oh, you're talking to young people. But hip hop culture is 40 years old. So if you have people that started listening to hip hop when they were 15, they're now 55. If they wearing a pair of shell-top Adidas, they're a member of the hip hop culture. Because those of us who remember hip hop culture since its inception, we understand that Run DMC made those sneakers fashionable years ago before they just came back. You know, so that's what I do. I work in North Philadelphia, and I work in North Philadelphia because I was born and raised in North Philadelphia. And I experienced trauma as a result of witnessing domestic violence, living in an impoverished neighborhood, going through an era where Philadelphia had a problem with gangs. You know, so we talk about the danger in our neighborhoods today. It's not quite the same, but it was similar. And as a result of not getting as a result of not getting counseling to address those traumas, you know, I didn't do too well for a long time in my life. So as I got older, I went back to school, got a master's in human service, and decided to be a counselor. But my goal was to be the counselor or therapist that I needed when I was young that I couldn't get. So thus, Hip Hop Psycho Ed came into fruition.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. And so many good things you said there. I appreciate you so much for being able to like connect that and see that the groups of people that you're working with, like this is a way that you could kind of reach and connect and make them feel like almost like at home with the way that you're approaching therapy or the way you're approaching like trauma. I think that is like really important. I think that that's a thing that specifically like Black folks really need, is like we're always looking for this like connection between each other, right? For somebody to be like, I got you, you know, or I understand, or I get it, you know. So just like really appreciative of you being here and the work that you're doing.
Do you work with both Black men and Black women, or is it just mostly men?
It's been mostly men. And hip hop, this is a funny thing. If you guys understand hip hop culture, you understand that white people buy more hip hop music than any other culture. So it's not even Black people, you know, white people can buy into hip hop culture. But definitely, I work with women, I work with men, I work with all, you know, races, you know, all ethnicities. It's just that where I work now, there's a high concentration of men, African-American and Latino men who are recovering from substance use disorders, mental health challenges, and incarceration. Because of diversionary programs where, you know, we're addressing criminal justice reform, we're not locking up as many people, but we understand that many of the people that were locked up weren't really violent people. They had behavioral health care issues, whether it was substance use disorders or mental health challenges. So what's happening is there's a move towards allowing these people to access outpatient mental health treatment so that they don't have to be incarcerated. So it just so happens that right now I deal with predominantly males. But I work with women, and as a matter of fact, there's a woman, I cannot pronounce her name, Shay Noor. If you could spell it, Chenoir. She's from Buffalo. I think she may have been introduced by Griselda. And she has this song called Communion. Oh my God, I just heard it for the first time like 2-3 days ago, and it's been on repeat. I highly recommend that song, especially because, like you said, because I have been doing so much work with men, in some of my presentations, I'm starting to introduce women. And her song is just remarkable.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to check that out. Yeah, and I think that there is an importance to sometimes having these special like groups where there's times when like men can just get together, there's times where women can just get together, because although there is, or non-binary folks or LGBTQ folks, like there is these certain sectors of groups of people who, although the struggle is similar in some ways, the things and the ways that you go about dealing with them sometimes might look different, you know. So yeah, Yasmeen, I'm wondering if you have a question for Ronald.
It's not like a question. Well, I guess it kind of is. But like, do you kind of like help people maybe get diagnosed? Like if you see certain like patterns in their life or certain things in their life, do you try to help get them like diagnosed so that they can further get help specific to like their needs that aren't just trauma based?
As a professional counselor, as a master's level professional counselor, I can make a diagnosis. And I can engage them in the therapeutic supports that they need. I'm actually a real therapist. You know what I mean? Hip hop therapy was just my way, and I hate to say this. I graduated with a master's 20 years ago, but it took me 5 years of doing all that stuff I learned in school to realize that stuff wasn't working at 24th and Lehigh. It just wasn't. It was coming from a European standpoint. It just didn't work. So I changed everything, even to my appearance. You know, when I do therapy at 24th and Lehigh, I'm gonna have a hoodie on. I'm gonna have some of the latest sneakers. You know, I'm gonna look like the people that I'm serving, because when I go in a job interview, I have a shirt and tie on. You know, I'm able to code switch. But when I go to North Philadelphia dressed like that, it sets up a power dynamic that I don't want to do. You know, I want to be just like the participants that I work with. And because I have lived experience, because I'm recovering from mental health challenges, I'm just like them. So I want to look like them. I want to talk like them. I'm bilingual in that a lot of the things that I learned in my master's program, I'm able to disseminate the information and make it sound like we're just having a regular conversation. I know that I'm using CBT. I know that I'm using motivational interviewing. It's just that you've been counseled, but you don't even know it. And I think that's what makes people want to buy in, because, you know, a lot of people I deal with also have literacy challenges. You know, I deal with the rough people. I don't think I said that right, but I deal with people who have some severe challenges, incarceration. You know, I deal with the shooters. You know, everybody's talking about a lot of the violence that's going on in Philadelphia, but they're talking about it from a victim standpoint. But they don't realize that many of the shooters also experience PTSD, and their violent response is a result of them being hypervigilant and them being so on guard of a threat that they're responding violently to threats that sometimes aren't even there. Or sometimes their response is over-exaggerated. You know, you went from 1 to 100, and you know that situation could have been addressed with a conversation. I hope I answered your question. Did I?
I felt like that was great. Did that work?
I talk a lot. I talk a lot.
Oh no, that's great, and I appreciate the 0 to 100 that real quick, because I think that's a great segue into talking about Kanye West, right? I think that ultimately a lot of times when you see stuff in the media about Kanye, that's what happens for him. He can go from like 0 to 100 real quick and put stuff out there. Yeah, and I think we'd love to hear, you know, some of your perspective, you know, on Kanye. Like, what, I don't know if you saw the Netflix documentary. Okay. Yeah, so there's a Netflix documentary out called Genius that kind of shows how he, over the years, became famous, and it kind of talks about his mother and kind of talks about Kim a little bit, but you really kind of see this trajectory of like him being like this guy making beats in his basement to then like being on like the stage of Sold Out Folks. And I guess, yeah, we'd just be interested to hear like, what is your perspective on the climate, or like where like mental health is like around around Kanye West?
Well, I didn't see the documentary. I've been meaning to see it, but I've just been really, really busy working on my projects. But another reason why I didn't rush to see it, because a lot of what was shown, I knew already about Kanye West. I've been covering Kanye West for years. I sent you an article that I wrote about 4 or 5 years ago.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know, he was just alluding to the fact that he had bipolar. Because I had the ability to make assessments of people's behavior, I had determined that he may have been challenged with bipolar disorder. And I say may have been because I couldn't make an assessment over the internet without hearing everything. It was just some of his behavior was consistent with a person having bipolar. The media, and one of the reasons why a lot of people don't like to get treatment for mental health challenges is the media, they perpetuate an illusion of people with mental health challenges as erratic, dangerous, unstable, and they're doing it with Kanye too. Kanye West does have bipolar. Let me make this a little better. I don't know if you know some of the symptoms of bipolar disorder, but some of them are extreme moods, highs and lows. The highs are called manic. And when you're manic, you're very impulsive, very creative, have a decreased need for sleep, talk a lot, talk loud, you're confident, you're funny, and you may be that way for a few weeks to a few months. The problem is, after that, you go to the other end of the spectrum, where your moods are very, very, very depressed. And some of the symptoms of depression are feelings of hopelessness, feelings of worthlessness, fatigue, isolation, lack of interest in things that you normally find enjoyable, thoughts of suicide. And the crazy part about the media is they never show Kanye during his low points. So they just make it seem like he's just this, Energizer bunny, So the media, I think they just want to, get clicks or sell papers or get viewers or whatever. So they only show part of it. But I knew, I heard Kanye say that early in his career, he had a good time. He felt good about himself because he made like 30 beats in a week, with no sleep. And everybody was like, oh, you a beast. Oh my God. And I'm like, nah, that's manic. When you manic, you don't sleep, you work round the clock, 3 hours a day, but you're productive. And that's one of the reasons why people don't want to get treatment for their mania, is because when you're manic, it's like experiencing the best day of your life every day. And people don't want to let that go with medication. Medication will dull that a little bit. So the goal of getting medicated is to be able to maintain your creativity without being as impulsive, and y'all understand impulsivity, let's go to Vegas tomorrow. You're like, bro, you're not even gonna plan. You're not even gonna tell your job. But we know people like that. That's, just always I'm getting married to somebody that I met 2 weeks ago, or I'm making lavish, purchases, really, really impulsive. So Kanye's going through a lot of that. And I just think that, I don't know whether or not he's taking his meds. I know a lot of people don't like taking meds because some of the side effects may be adverse. I don't know what's going on with him and his marriage, or him and his divorce, but I do know that bipolar can significantly impact, work, family, and school. And if he's experiencing untreated bipolar disorder, then this could be the result. But because I'm not there, I'm not going to speak on, what could happen. I don't know.
Right. No.
Office.
Yeah, no. And thank you so much for really breaking that down. I know, I think that even inside of our just human culture is it's quick to be call somebody or be to say to somebody you're bipolar, right? When somebody we already have this very negative idea about being bipolar when like someone like gets an attitude or switches their mind up or something like that, right? So thank you so much for like really breaking that down. That was really great, and I feel like I just like learned even like more about it.
I call what you just explained the hood definition of bipolar.
Okay.
A lot of the reasons why we avoid mental health treatment is our ignorance of the practice. You know, we don't know what bipolar is. You know, you were mad at me yesterday, you know, but now you're nice. You know, you're bipolar. No, that's moodiness. That's just being moody. That's not bipolar. Bipolar is when you're manic for a certain amount of time and then you're depressed for a certain amount of time. When you see people doing that, then you can call them bipolar. But I would refrain from calling people bipolar unless you've had training in what bipolar disorder really is. You know, and that's another thing too, because counseling mimics having a conversation, we just think anybody who can talk slick can be a counselor. And that's not necessarily the truth. You know, counseling, just like medicine, should be done by a professional. You know what I mean? You wouldn't want your barber telling you what to do with your diabetes. So when you have a mental health challenge, you don't need to go to your mom or your Uncle John. They're good forms of support, but we need to encourage people to go to professionals.
I wanted to talk about like diagnosing in the Black community, because I feel like oftentimes like being Black in America in and of itself is already traumatic. So we already are living our lives with that fear of being profiled or getting killed on the street or whatever. But specifically, a lot of like the DSM-5 and like all of these research, it only goes into white cis men, and we never look at how like disorders, disabilities, mental illnesses, how they look and how they present in Black people. So I feel like with Kanye West, I'm not a professional, like I can't diagnose people, but I feel like with Kanye West, we are so quick to just throw like, oh, he's this, he's that. But it might just present so much differently in a Black man who is in the media 24/7, who is constantly being looked at, constantly being judged, constantly like in his modes, and we're only seeing this one side of him. So I feel like with Black people as a whole, we need to kind of figure out ways to look at disorders, look at disabilities, look at illnesses, and see them through a Black lens and not just a white male lens. And I think that would also help Kanye, because maybe he could get the proper help and the proper attention, because if he is or isn't bipolar, if he isn't and he is taking his meds, they're not going to work, because they're not targeting what he's actually going through. So I think with Kanye and like other Black men, we really need to figure out a way to get them the proper help and the proper medication or the proper counseling that they need to get the proper help.
Yeah. Ronald, what do you think about that?
That's an excellent point. But Kanye does have bipolar. Kanye disclosed that he had bipolar disorder. And as I said before, a lot of people don't want to get treatment because when you are manic, you're creative. And Kanye wants to make good music and he wants to excel in fashion. So that's why he doesn't take his medicine, because he feels that it'll probably slow his thoughts down. That's why he doesn't take his medicine. But you made a good point, which is one of the reasons why I don't get into all of this trust the science and trust the data, because a lot of the research is done by white people on white people, and it doesn't really, it really doesn't show how experiences impact people other than white males. I agree with that, which is why hip hop psycho ed came as the result of a Black therapist understanding that European strategies didn't work in urban areas in Philadelphia. Because you're right, but the diagnosis, that's pretty much the easy part, because a manic Black person and a manic white person look similar. But what I hear what you're talking about, the difference is the treatment. And if the treatment for a Black person comes from a Black person, it'll look different than a treatment than it was, or treatment from a white person. And I would be remiss if I didn't discuss the change in hip hop culture where a lot of artists are talking about their experience of mental health challenges and the need for mental health treatment in their lyrics. Now, just like with conscious hip hop, that's not going to be played on the radio. You got to research this. You know, you guys didn't even know about some of the songs that he was talking about because they're not the songs that are played on the radio. What's played on the radio are songs that promote hypermasculinity, hypersexuality, and a lot of misogyny and it's a reason for that. And I talk about that in the book. And one of the reasons are the media companies that own the radio stations and the television stations. They also invest in private prisons, and it's a good look for them to influence people to behave negatively so that they can go into their prisons so that they can also earn money.
All right, Ronald, thank you so much. Can you just hold up your book for us? Yeah, I'll make sure that we get a screenshot of that.
You can purchase it on Amazon, but you can email me at honestyhurts.crc@gmail.com. If you follow my Instagram, I think my IG page is what'sfree_honestyhurts, but you can go into Ronald Crawford and you should be able to find it. I'm in the community. I give pro bono group therapy sessions to people in urban areas of Philadelphia who've been impacted by violence. And the reason why I talk about the books that I've written a lot is because I use a therapeutic strategy called bibliotherapy. And bibliotherapy is the use of books and words to help people in therapy develop coping skills. So, you get people to journal, you get people to write rap lyrics, but you also get them to write books that are culturally relevant. A lot of people in urban areas or in our community, period, have literacy challenges. There's an old saying, if you want to hide something from a Black person, hide it, put it in a book or whatever. That's because we don't read as much as we could. We do read, and I'm not saying every person doesn't read, but we need to read more. So in therapy, where you're learning how to address your behavior and change your life, you can also use reading, and reading can help you outside of therapy. So that's why I promote, increasing literacy in the books that I've written.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ronald. This has been really great, and I'm definitely gonna look you up. All right. How did y'all feel about that?
Really informative.
Yeah. That was
I think
a lot of stuff there.
Doing it's something different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a lot of information. I'm I know that stuff about bipolar, but I don't know. I guess just hearing it from someone, it also is just yes, that this is real. You don't have to look on WebMD. He's saying, what it is. So I don't know. Yasmeen, do you feel Kanye might not actually have bipolar? Be bipolar?
Yeah, I do a lot of research.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a professional, but I know in my own personal life,
mm-hmm.
I don't think he has bipolar disorder.
Mm.
And I don't know. I don't feel I don't ever say it out loud because I know people like to be oh, well, you're not a professional, so how can you get to say that?
Right.
But as someone with autism and watching his documentary, especially seeing him even younger, even before fame,
mm-hmm.
I only see hints of autism in his life. Just the way in which he is creatively and how his brain works. Because although he does have manic episodes, I have similar experiences where I'll have an idea and I'll feel so motivated. I won't sleep. I'll only be doing that for days on end. I only talk about that thing. I hyper focus on it. So I feel he has some similarities with that, and also with the meds, obviously if he's not taking them, they're not going to work. But if he has been taking them for this period of time and it still wasn't working, that would be a valid reason for him to stop taking them because he's not getting any comfort in them. So I kind of feel that.
No, I think that, based because of your experience, I think that makes sense for you to make that, like, have that observation. And I feel like it's not it's not that it's not valid. You know what I mean? Like, I think too that, just from all the like documentaries and stuff that I watch about autism, I think too, like, autism also goes along with usually like other things, like whether it's like anxiety or the OCD, like, and like, why couldn't maybe it's both, or maybe it is just like autism. Like, can you be autistic and be bipolar, or can you just be autistic and it's showing and looks like similar to being bipolar? That's interesting. You sure you don't want to be like a doctor or something? Like,
everybody says that to me because I'm so observant, and like one of my interests is like mental health, mental illnesses, disabilities, all of that. And bipolar is also a disability. So it has a lot of similarities with autism. And
so I know Samson probably has been like waiting. Is he still available? Is he here, or is he like?
Yeah, I'm here, guys.
Oh, Samson, hey. You're here.
Yeah, I was listening.
Right. Thank you for waiting. I didn't anticipate that being quite as long as it was.
That's fine.
But it's some good stuff.
Now we're bringing in my friend Sam. We met because we work together, but other than that, we've become really good friends. We have lots of talks about music. He's a musician himself, really cool guy, really deep talks all the time. So I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to bring him in, especially because we also both love Kanye. So I guess we started off with asking, what's your favorite Kanye song?
Great. Okay. Favorite Kanye song is gotta be. I mean, I don't wanna pick one, but if I had to pick one, it's gotta be "Can't Tell Me Nothing." Because "Can't Tell Me Nothing," man, like, just the energy that he was bringing on "Can't Tell Me Nothing" was different. It was like that grind mindset, that get what you gotta get, like, go get it kind of stuff.
Okay, I really liked it. That was Ariel's favorite song. We were talking about it earlier. I don't know what the X verse. I guess since you're a musician yourself, how would you feel about, I guess, your music and your personal being, like, always constantly being critiqued, and like kind of being like how Kanye, people are like, oh, you should separate the artist from the person because, he has great music, but also, like, I don't really agree with a lot of his ideologies or whatever. How would you as a person feel, like, if you were just constantly being critiqued about everything you say and like your music? Like, would you feel like that would impact how you kind of are as a musician, I guess?
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like when it comes to the whole critiquing thing, and I feel like everyone's always gonna have an opinion, like, and I kind of can't control that. And I just feel like I try not to focus on it too much. But if I was like getting critiqued and everybody was talking about like every bar I was putting in a song, or like every kind of beat I made or whatever, I would definitely take the criticism, because I feel like criticism is like this kind of like this double-edged sword kind of thing that can be kind of good but kind of bad, but you always just have to know how far to go with it, how far, like how much you should take from it and what you should like let go from it.
Yeah, I think being critical of music is important, and I don't know that we're critical enough of music. You know what I mean? Like, I think even when you think about Kanye West, I feel like he might be similar to you in that sense of like, or it seems, at least think about the documentary and stuff like that, where it's like he feeds on, not that you feed on it, but like he needs people to critique him. He needs people to have a comment. He needs people to like be saying or thinking or wanting to know more about him. Like I'm thinking about a scene from the documentary where he's like running for president and he's like in the car and somebody on Fox News is like literally making fun of him for running, you know, for president. But he's like, no, like y'all need to be quiet. Like, see, like he, you know, like, and he thinks that this person is like on his team. And he's like, his people around him are like, no, he's actually like making fun, you know, but he just like doesn't hear it. Like he hears that like somebody is like understanding him or somebody has made that connection. Yasmeen, I saw you shaking your head.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like Kanye, he needs people to tell him what he's doing because he doesn't really know what he's doing. And that's what kind of makes him so great. It's like he knows what he's doing is good and he knows that like, oh, I hear this, I know the vision, but he wants everybody to hear it the exact way he intends on making it. So if he makes a song and he intends on everyone to hear it and think this, he's going to make sure that all the people covering the song or covering what he said takes it exactly for what he's saying. So I think he really does need that criticism to kind of be like, okay, everyone knows exactly what I'm trying to do here because they know I'm the greatest. They can hear the genius in it. They can hear that this is like Kanye, like this is me and this is what I'm doing.
I concur. I definitely agree with that. Like, I just think that like sometimes I feel like you can kind of pick and choose those topics that'll give you the criticism. Like on My Twisted Dark Fantasy, like that's definitely a controversial album, but I just feel like it's good that he did it because like that sometimes like the deepest stuff, I mean, it gives you that, what's the word I'm looking for? It gives you that but it kind of just helps with your career. But what I'm really looking for is like, it really hits people. There we go. Like it reaches your heart. Like when they talk about like touchy subjects. The kind of music I'm making right now, it's like that I'm playing with my bands. It's like really jazzy, but it's like fused with some Latin stuff. It's kind of like all over the place, but if I had to like define it with like one word, it would be abstract because I can't even really tell you what it is. You'll just have to hear it. But I play all kinds of stuff, like, and I love all kinds of music, like jazz, rock, anything, you name it, I've probably heard it, but that's just because I've been playing for so long. Like, I've been playing for about, since 8th grade, I've been doing drums. So, I mean, the kind of genres are limitless, to be honest. You can go to my YouTube, Sam Studios. The last S in Studios is a Z though. And you can check out my Instagram, which is Sam_Studios. And you can find all my stuff there.
Great, yeah.
I do give drum lessons professionally and piano lessons professionally. So if anybody ever needed any of that, let me know. I'm located in East Lansdowne currently.
That brings me to my question I was going to ask. I was going to say, how, like in your music, do you see how Kanye, or did Kanye influence your music? And if so, how do you kind of see that in your music?
Oh, okay, definitely. Kanye, man. So I really feel like he influenced me in my beat making. Like a lot of the beats, the way I try to do my beats, like I kind of like studied some of the ways that he would like try and come up with stuff, like, or like how he would like just his vibe of like not giving a fuck is kind of like a way that I would try to infuse that in my music, like, and also some of his arrogance. Like you can kind of hear it in his music, and I like it a lot because it's just like, man, it's kind of the best of both worlds if you really think about it. Because I mean, if you put your music out, it's gotta be like people are gonna critique it, but if you already put that arrogance and like that vibe into your stuff, you're kind of winning, in my opinion. But definitely his rap style has influenced me a lot. Like in the way I rap, like, and when I freestyle, I definitely I talk with emphasis a lot, you know, like, because I feel like in order for things to come out the way you want them to, you gotta feel it, you know, like you gotta really feel everything. So that's another thing I took from him. I would say, I don't know. Like a lot of times he makes you think with the kind of words he chooses, like the bars, and like he'll put them in a certain part of the song to make a certain impact. And like that's another thing I'll try to do with my music.
I guess the question I have is, you know, what role does mental health play in your media? I mean, in your what role does social? Well, what's the question I was asking? Sorry, I'm off. What role does mental health play in your music? Like how? Yeah.
Okay, got you. Well, it's definitely it's more so of a, like, I'll come from a relatable standpoint on it. Like, I have a few depressing songs. Like the beats on my EP, about 2 of them are kind of depressing. So it's kind of like I'll be trying to relate with someone who's going through that kind of stuff, because I had a time where I went through that, and everyone does. So I kind of try to come from a relatable standpoint with it. Yeah.
I have a question. Depressing music. Do you make depressing music when you're depressed, or do you make depressing music when you're not depressed? Because I feel like I listen to depressing music kind of when I'm not depressed, because I'm like, yo, I just went through that. Well, I'm kind of always depressed, but like when I'm like a little bit like okay, I'll be like, oh man, that was relatable. I just do that. Or do you like do it so it's like the raw, this is me now, like, you know what I mean?
I would say, yeah, I definitely make it when I'm in that mood and I'm in that zone. If I'm feeling low, most likely what's gonna come out is something that's low, like at that same frequency, because one, it's easier to do, and second, honestly, I've never really tried to come up with something depressing while I was feeling good. So I mean, I'll have to try that, but most of the time, yeah, I'm in my bag when like when I'm making something like that. When it's like, it's really a superpower to kind of not care, and it makes you stronger. Like, because from personal experience, like there was a time where I really cared about like my playing, like what people thought of my playing, and like how I wanted, or what people thought of my beats and all that. But it really does like make you stronger when you kind of remember that you're in it for you, like you're doing it because you want to do it, you know.
Yeah, I feel like that. I feel like when I was younger, I didn't care about anything, but then I learned what caring was. So then I cared for a little bit, but now I'm kind of in that point where I'm like, I don't care anymore. If I like something and I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it how I want and not like try to fit a certain like demographic of people or a certain person. I just want to do it how I do it, and whoever likes it will just hop on board.
That's true. That's true.
The thing about cancel culture, and you were saying it's different with generations, and I think it's because social media, like I know we talk about social media a lot throughout this thing, but social media kind of is a track record of everything you've ever put out, of everything you've ever said. And it almost like, especially as someone who was on social media at such a young age, I feel like me at 10 years old is not thinking the same way I'm thinking at 21 years old. So me saying something dumb at 10, or like even me saying stuff now, I'm not going to think like this in 10 more years. And I feel like it keeps people down, and it limits growth to a certain extent. It's like, yeah, you can cancel people for problematic things, but I feel like cancel should just be you choosing not to tune in no more. It shouldn't be this, you know what, we have to ban this person, blah, blah, blah. Like, I feel like now, obviously, there's different levels of toxicity that could allow people to maybe be like, you know what, let's not support that person. But I'm talking about like little things like tweets of problematic things that someone said in the past, or lyrics of songs that was like, maybe you shouldn't have said that, or maybe that was a little whatever. I feel like it doesn't give room for growth. And I think that people are quick to cancel someone instead of checking someone and be like, hey, this is why that was wrong. This is why this, and like allow people to actually apologize and not just make some fake crying video on YouTube and be like, I apologize for the blah, blah, blah I said, and like actually think, wow, the world didn't take light to that. Let me figure out why that was wrong, and let me actually move on from there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sam. Thank you, Layla, for the connect.
Thank you guys, man, for having me here, man. Cool.
Yeah.
On.
Say it again, Layla.
I said, yeah, thank you for coming on. I know, like, I kind of didn't give you much information.
No, it's fine, man. I just heard Kanye, and that's all I needed to hear, you know.
All right, so we talked about a ton of different topics regarding like Kanye, mental health, bipolar, being bipolar in the Black community, how cancel culture might impact like a young artist. And I think the question that we kind of want to close on is, if you could talk to Ye, like what would you say, right? I like that rhymes too. But I think if I could talk to Kanye, I think it wouldn't be a lot of words, right? I think it would probably just be like, maybe even like an apology. Like, I just feel like I'm sorry that people don't understand you, or people can't accept like you know. I think like I would just like want to give him a hug or a pound or whatever, and just be like, I'm sorry, like people just are not going to get you, but I hope that you get the help that you need, you know. I hope you get the support that you need. That's probably what I would say. Yasmeen or Layla?
If I could talk to Kanye, I would say that I see you, because oftentimes we hear people and we listen, but we don't ever give back, and we don't ever follow through on a lot of the words that we say. But I see Kanye as a person. I see him as somebody who I looked up to and still look up to. I see myself in him and his ambition and his confidence. So I would just tell him that I see you and I see what you're doing, and it's gonna pay off, or it is paying off in whatever way that it is to him. And I would probably also give him a hug, because he just needs one. Like, honestly, everyone needs a good hug.
Yeah, I was automatically thinking hug too. If I could talk to Kanye, I would probably say thank you. Just because I feel like he already knows he's great, so I wouldn't have to be like, you're great, this, that. I would just say thank you. you know, you impacted me, you impacted a lot of people around me, obviously. And not just your music, but kind of like what Yaz was saying, like, you're a person, and thank you for being you. Thank you for keep like going, because I know it's hard for sometimes to just keep going. And yeah, I think I would just say thank you and end with a hug.
Yep, hugs all around. Yeah, thank you both so much. I feel like I talked to Yasmeen about this. I was like, this is a crazy idea, but like we both like talking about Kanye West, so like why not? And like to bring in like your sibling and like be able to, now we're like connected to, like we're connected and we're connected to Ronald, and now I'm connected to Sam. And I think that that is like another really amazing thing too, like is that because of Kanye West, like now, you know, we're connected closer, and we're able to kind of like shine some light and have this kind of like really rooted conversation. So yeah, I think thank you is appropriate. I think I see you is appropriate. I think sorry is appropriate too. So thank you both for this.
Thank you. This has been really fun. Like you said, I made a lot of good connections through this. I was never expecting to just be sitting somewhere on a weekend talking about Kanye West, but it's really been fun. Me and Yas probably do this anyway, just talk about music, mental health, community, all that. So it was a really good experience.